The wind rustled softly through the pine trees, carrying the scent of damp earth and moss. In the heart of the vast forest, a simple wooden cabin stood, home to a girl named Maya. She was not like most people. Maya found a peace in the wild that she could never find amidst the city's hustle and bustle. The forest was everything to her. It was where she grew, breathed, and healed from invisible wounds. That morning, Maya was watering her small garden of medicinal plants. Her slender fingers touched the leaves with a gentle reverence, as if she could feel the pulse of life in each one. Though young, her eyes held a deep wisdom and a hint of profound sadness. She spoke little, but she listened. She listened to the whispering wind, the songs of the birds, and the sighs of the river. After breakfast, Maya put on her jacket and grabbed her small backpack. It was her daily ritual, patrolling the forest. She moved with a silent grace, as if she were a part of the environment. She checked and dismantled poachers' traps, noted the condition of the trees, and occasionally paused to watch a squirrel gathering nuts. This forest was her friend, and she was its guardian. During her patrol, she heard voices from the direction of the river. Not animal sounds, but human ones. Maya hid behind some bushes and saw two illegal poachers setting up traps. Her heart sank. She hated violence, but she couldn't allow them to harm her home. She could only note their location, promising to report them later. When she returned to her cabin, she felt something different in the air, a certain tension. She sat on her porch and pondered, thinking about the poachers and the threat they brought. Soon after, her old radio crackled to life. It was a call from the nearest park ranger. "Maya, it's Mr. Booty. There's news from the village. They've sighted an albino wolf near the forest border. They say it's a bad omen. The villagers are worried, and some want to track it down. Be careful, okay?" Maya's heart pounded. An albino wolf. The whispers of superstition and fear reminded her of how easily humans judge something that is different. The wolf didn't bring bad luck, she thought. The wolf was simply different. And what is different is often a target of hatred. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She looked at the full moon, imagining the lonely albino wolf, alone and threatened. A strange bond formed in her heart, one that transcended logic. She felt that the wolf was just like her, an outcast, searching for a place to belong. She made a decision. Tomorrow morning, she would search for the wolf, not to capture it, but to protect it. The morning mist still blanketed the valley. Maya was ready with a backpack containing a water bottle, a chocolate bar, and a small notebook. She carried nothing that could harm, only a compass and her instincts. She knew that to find the wolf, she couldn't rely on a map. She had to read the language of nature. Maya began to trace the part of the forest least traveled by humans. She looked for signs, not just footprints, but other clues. Broken twigs, fur caught on bushes, or the distinct scent of a wolf. Her heart was filled with a strange determination. She felt that this albino wolf was a mirror of herself. Both were creatures living on the border between the wild world and the human world, and both felt they didn't truly belong anywhere. After hours of walking, she found something. Near a fallen tree, there was a very clear wolf footprint. The print was not large, suggesting the wolf might be young or thin. Nearby, she found a strand of white fur, white as snow. It was the same fur described by the villagers. Maya took the fur, holding it carefully. She could feel the warmth that lingered, as if there was life in it. Maya followed the trail for the rest of the day. The tracks led her to a steep cliff and then into a small, hidden cave. From the outside, the cave looked dark and uninviting, but Maya knew this was a perfect place to hide. She couldn't go in. She didn't want to scare it. She just wanted to know if the wolf was inside. She sat silently outside the cave, trying to feel its presence. Inside the dark cave, Lykos was curled up. His stomach was empty, and a small wound on his paw ached. He was tired and terrified. His pack had abandoned him because of the strange color of his fur. He had tried to hunt for food, but every time he approached a village, he was met with thrown stones and shouts. He didn't understand why humans hated him so much. He just wanted to live. Lykos smelled the scent of a human outside his cave. His heart pounded. He thought it was the poachers who kept chasing him, but this scent was different. There was no smell of weapons, no smell of gasoline, only the smell of earth, leaves, and kindness. Lykos hesitated. He peeked out and saw a girl sitting calmly, her back resting on a rock, looking in his direction. Lykos saw the sadness in her eyes, the same sadness he felt. Maya felt something move inside the cave. She didn't see it, but she could feel it. She took a chocolate bar from her backpack, broke it into several pieces, and placed them near the cave entrance. Then she retreated, putting herself at a safe distance. She knew the first step was not to approach, but to give space. That night, Lykos came out of the cave. He sniffed the chocolate, hesitant. It had been a long time since he'd eaten human food, but he was too hungry to care. Slowly, he ate the chocolate, feeling a little energy return to his body. Then, he looked at the spot where Maya had been sitting. The girl was gone, but in her place, there was a small flower placed on a rock. It was a small, nameless forest flower. The flower was like a silent gesture from Maya. I see you. The next morning, Maya returned to the cave. This time, she brought dried fish and a few pieces of roasted meat. She knew that chocolate wouldn't be enough for a starving wolf. She placed the food in the same spot, this time with a cup of water beside it. She didn't wait anymore. She knew she had to keep her distance so Lykos wouldn't feel threatened. She only left traces of kindness. Meanwhile, Lykos was confused. This human's presence was unlike any other. She didn't chase him. She didn't shout at him. She just came and went, leaving behind food he desperately needed. His empty stomach was proof that her actions were real, not a trap. Each time he ate, he felt a little more warmth and strength return to his body. The wound on his paw also began to heal. For the next few days, the ritual continued. Maya would come, leave food, and then leave. She did this consistently, building a fragile bridge of trust. Lykos began to anticipate Maya's arrival. He no longer hid deep inside the cave, but sat near the entrance, observing from a distance. He saw how careful Maya was, how gentle her movements were, and how patient she was. One sunny afternoon, as Maya was leaving the food, Lykos accidentally made a noise. A small stone fell, and Lykos flinched, thinking he had made a mistake. But Maya didn't panic. She just turned slowly, looking into Lykos's eyes from a distance. Lykos could see her eyes that were filled not with fear or hatred, but with empathy. Maya spoke in a very quiet voice, almost a whisper. It's okay, Lykos. I'm here. I won't hurt you. Lykos was startled. The girl knew his name? He remembered a conversation he'd once overheard in the village, where they had called the albino wolf Lykos, the wolf of ill omen. Maya spoke his name not with derision, but with warmth. Although Lykos didn't understand human words, he understood the tone. That tone was a promise that he was safe. Slowly, Lykos came out of the cave, stopping a few feet away from the food Maya had left. Lykos stared intently at Maya, as if trying to read her soul. Maya didn't move. She just sat still, letting the wolf take his time. Lykos finally ate the food in Maya's presence. It was an unexpected moment. Trust, something he had struggled to find, was now beginning to grow between them. Lykos no longer felt alone. He had found someone who saw him not as a bad omen, but as a living creature worthy of protection. On the other hand, Maya also felt her heart slowly opening. Caring for Lykos had given her a purpose. She was no longer just surviving in the forest, but also protecting another life. The wounds in her heart felt a little lighter, as if a new space had been filled by Lykos's presence. This unusual relationship was the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. Trust, a fragile thing that was hard for both Lykos and Maya to gain, had now grown between them. But this unusual bond was about to be tested. That morning, Maya went to the nearest village market to buy some essential supplies. She wasn't worried about leaving Lykos. She knew the wolf now felt safe near her cabin. However, while Maya was away, the poachers she had encountered a few days ago returned. They were no longer just setting small traps for rabbits or deer. They were now targeting a larger, more valuable prey. After getting news about the albino wolf roaming the area, they set a bigger, stronger wire snare, hoping to catch the rare game that would fetch a high price. Lykos, feeling hungry, left his cave to hunt. He was extremely vigilant, relying on his keen sense of smell to avoid danger. But the wire snare was cunningly hidden beneath a pile of dry leaves. As Lykos leaped over a fallen log, his paw got caught, and the trap snapped shut. An intense pain shot through him. Lykos panicked. He struggled with all his might, and trying to free himself from the wire that was coiling around his paw. Every movement only tightened the snare, tearing at his skin. The fear he had always felt, the fear of humans, of traps, of hatred, returned with full force. He whimpered in agony, his cries filled with desperation. Maya, on her way home, felt a dreadful premonition piercing her heart. The feeling was so strong that she decided to rush back. She ran as fast as she could through the forest paths she knew by heart. As she neared the cave area, she heard a terrifying sound, the howling cry of a wolf in pain. Her heart pounded. Her premonition was right. Lykos was in danger. She quickened her pace, running toward the source of the sound. There, she saw a heartbreaking sight. Lykos, caught in a snare, writhing in agony. His eyes, usually so alert, were now filled with despair. Lykos saw Maya and snarled, trapped between his fear and his pain. Lykos's eyes, filled with desperation, met Maya's as she approached. The wolf snarled, caught between his fear and his pain. But Maya did not hesitate. She dropped her backpack and approached him carefully, kneeling a few feet away. "Lykos, it's me, Maya," she whispered gently, trying to soothe him. "I'm here to help you. Don't be afraid." Lykos still snarled, his eyes fixed on Maya. He couldn't run, and the pain from the snare made him even more panicked. Maya knew she couldn't force him. She sat down, waiting patiently. She spoke to Lykos in a calming voice, telling him simple things about the forest, about the weather, about the flowers she tended. Slowly, Maya's gentle voice broke through Lykos's panic. His snarling subsided, though his body still trembled. After Lykos seemed calmer, Maya slowly reached out her hand. "I'm going to set you free," she promised. Holding her breath, Maya moved toward the trap. She could see the wound on Lykos's paw. The skin was torn and blood was beginning to drip. Lykos pulled his paw back, trying to get away, but the trap held firm. Maya had to act quickly and precisely. Using a small stick she found, she carefully pressed the lever of the trap. Lykos let out a small whimper, and Maya could feel how terrified the wolf was. A single second felt like an hour. Finally, with a loud click, the trap sprang open. Lykos's paw was free. He immediately pulled it back, but he didn't run. He stumbled, falling to the ground, and just stared at Maya. Lykos saw the worry on her face, the relief. In Maya's eyes there was no hatred, no desire for control, only pure compassion. Maya quickly took a cloth from her backpack and gently tied it around Lykos's wound to stop the bleeding. Lykos allowed her to. The unexpected friendship that had begun with food was now strengthened by this very real act. Lykos realized this girl didn't just give him food, she saved his life. Maya supported Lykos's weak body and helped him walk slowly toward her cabin. Halfway there, Lykos stopped and looked at Maya. With a gentle and grateful motion, he nudged his head against her hand. It was a silent but clear gesture. He had found his protector. Maya returned the gesture with a soft stroke to the wolf's head. Slowly, she guided Lykos back to her cabin, along the familiar path under the shade of the trees. Each step Lykos took felt heavy, yet he kept going, driven by Maya's presence. When they arrived at the cabin, Maya opened the door and invited Lykos inside. Lykos hesitated. A house, a man-made structure, was something alien and frightening to him, but the warm scent of herbal tea and burning wood from inside the cabin made him feel at ease. He stepped inside, letting Maya help him lie down in front of the fireplace. Maya quickly took out her first aid kit. She cleaned the wound on Lykos's paw with warm water and an herbal antiseptic. Lykos whimpered, but he didn't resist. He let Maya care for him, realizing that the brief pain was for his own good. Lykos watched Maya as she worked, his eyes on her gentle hands. He saw a sincere devotion and kindness, something he had never experienced before. After his wound was bandaged, Lykos fell asleep. That night, Lykos slept soundly for the first time since he had been driven from his pack. He no longer had to be alert for threats in every shadow, no longer had to feel the cold earth. He was inside a warm home, protected by a girl who didn't care about the color of his fur. Maya sat in her chair, watching the sleeping Lykos. She also felt a heavy weight lift from her shoulders. All this time she had felt alone in the forest, isolated from the human world. Lykos's presence filled that emptiness. She saw herself in Lykos. Both were wounded and cast-out creatures who had now found comfort in each other's company. Dawn broke. Lykos woke up and saw Maya sleeping in the chair beside him, tired but peaceful. He stood, and though his paw still ached, he walked over to her. Gently, he nuzzled his nose against Maya's hand, a sincere gesture of affection. Maya awoke, surprised, startled, but smiling. Lykos was no longer afraid. He had accepted Maya as a part of his life. They were no longer just a protector and a wolf, but two lost souls who had found a family in the most unexpected of places. Lykos gently nudged his nose against Maya's hand, a sincere gesture. He had accepted Maya as a part of his life. They were no longer just a protector and a wolf, but two lost souls who had found a family in the most unexpected of places. Their bond grew, no longer simply a caretaker and her charge, but as inseparable companions. Lykos recovered quickly under Maya's care. The wound on his paw healed, and he regained his strength. Every day, Lykos and Maya spent time together. Lykos would accompany her on her patrols, running agilely by her side. They communicated without words. Lykos would sense danger, and Maya would read his signals. Maya also taught Lykos about safe plants to eat and clean sources of water. However, their shared time did not go unobserved. The poachers whose trap had been destroyed by Maya were furious. They returned to the forest, this time with greater determination. One of them, a cruel older man named Kasman, was obsessed with catching Lykos. He believed the superstition that the albino wolf's fur brought luck and wealth. He also saw Lykos as a personal challenge, an impossible prey to catch. One afternoon, while Maya was gathering firewood, Lykos suddenly let out a low growl, catching her attention. Lykos stood tense, his fur raised, staring into the bushes in the distance. Maya sharpened her senses and caught a familiar scent. The scent of humans who shouldn't be there, a scent mixed with the smell of cigarette smoke and metal. Lykos ran to Maya and nudged her gently with his snout, as if urging her to return to the cabin. Maya understood. They were being watched. The danger from the outside world had found its way into their new home. This was no longer just about surviving in the wild, but about protecting the fragile and precious bond they had built. Maya and Lykos returned to the cabin, realizing that their peace was threatened, and they had to prepare to face a greater threat than ever before. Maya and Lykos returned to the cabin, realizing that their peace was threatened, and they had to prepare to face a greater threat than ever before. That night, Lykos couldn't sleep. He paced restlessly inside the cabin, sniffing at the door and windows. His instinct told him the danger was getting closer. Maya tried to soothe him, stroking his fur gently, but she knew Lykos was right. This threat wouldn't just go away. The next day, Maya made a difficult decision. She couldn't stay in the cabin forever. She had to take action. She and Lykos began to plan an escape route. They explored the forest, searching for safe hiding places, hidden caves, crevices between rocks, or a marshy area difficult for humans to access. Lykos guided her to places known only by animals. He knew every turn and every nook of his home territory. Meanwhile, the poachers led by Kasman were getting closer. They had found the paw prints of Lykos, and strangely, human footprints next to them. They were confused, but their curiosity and greed grew. Kasman realized that someone was protecting the wolf. He sent his men to surround Maya's cabin, hoping to corner them. Maya and Lykos sensed the poachers' presence. They ran, leaping over rivers, passing through dense bushes and following steep cliffs. They moved as one. Lykos was agile, and Maya was nimble and knew the terrain. Their bond, built on trust, now became the basis of their cooperation for survival. However, Kasman was an experienced hunter. He didn't just rely on force, but also cunning. He knew that frightened prey makes mistakes. He began to set up traps along the path they were taking. Not just physical snares, but psychological ones. False sounds, misleading scents. His goal was to separate Maya and Lykos. When Lykos caught the scent of danger on one of the paths, he growled and stopped Maya in her tracks. He pointed in the opposite direction, urging her not to continue. Maya trusted Lykos's instincts completely. They changed direction, avoiding the hidden traps. But it didn't last long. They realized they couldn't keep running. They had to face the threat. Maya knew the only way to end this hunt was to make the hunters give up. But how? The answer came in an unexpected form. The community of animals in the forest. When Lykos felt cornered, he let out a deep howl. It wasn't a howl of fear, but a call. The howl echoed throughout the forest, breaking the silence. Maya was surprised. Lykos wasn't just crying out for himself, but for all the creatures he knew. Soon after, an extraordinary sight occurred. A herd of deer, a flock of owls, and even a few shy bears emerged from behind the trees. They didn't attack the hunters, but they surrounded them, making them feel threatened. The poachers, who were only used to easily defeated prey, began to panic. They could no longer distinguish between a safe path and a dangerous one. The animals had united to protect their home. Maya saw this and realized that Lykos, who was considered a bad omen, was actually an unseen leader. He had a deep bond with all the creatures in the forest. He wasn't just protected, he was a protector himself. Lykos and Maya stood at the front, watching the confused and terrified poachers. Casman, the coming hunter, realized he had underestimated the power of nature. He saw how the animals worked together, and he saw Lykos, the albino wolf, at the center of them all. He began to feel fear. He wasn't just chasing one wolf, he was chasing the entire forest itself. His men panicked, asking Casman to retreat. "Boss, this is crazy. There's something strange about that wolf. Let's get out of here." The stubborn Casman finally nodded. He knew he had lost. Not because he couldn't shoot, but because he couldn't fight nature. He and his men retreated, leaving the forest that now felt alive and full of watching eyes. Maya and Lykos watched them go. They didn't cheer or feel victorious. They just felt relieved. That night, Lykos and Maya sat on the riverbank, under the moonlight. Lykos gently nudged his nose against Maya's hand, as if saying thank you. Maya returned the gesture. They had passed a difficult test, and their bond was now stronger than ever. But Maya knew this wasn't over. The poachers might return, and she had to find a way to stop them for good. The next morning, Maya made a brave decision. She could no longer hide. She had to take this matter to the authorities, to the people who could provide legal protection for the forest and its inhabitants. She had to report the illegal poachers, including Casman. But she knew a simple report wouldn't be enough. She needed proof. Maya decided to go to the park ranger's office in the nearest town. She packed her bag, telling Lykos she would be gone for a little while, and asked him to stay at the cabin. Lykos, who usually always wanted to accompany her, understood. He saw the determination in Maya's eyes. Lykos watched Maya from the cabin porch, then went back inside, waiting patiently. At the park ranger's office, Maya met with Mr. Booty, the ranger who had called her. She told him everything, about the albino wolf nicknamed the Bringer of Bad Luck, about the poachers, and about how she and Lykos had managed to escape them. She also showed him the evidence she had collected. Photos of the poachers' footprints, a piece of wire from a trap she had brought, and a strand of Lykos's white fur. Mr. Booty listened carefully. He was surprised, but his eyes were filled with respect. He knew Maya was an honest and brave girl. "I believe you, Maya," he said, "but we have to move quickly. We need more evidence to catch them. Casman and his group are known for being cunning. They could disappear." Maya nodded. "I know where their hideout is. They have a small cabin near the forest border. I can lead you there." Mr. Booty was shocked. "That's too dangerous, Maya. Let us handle it." "No," Maya replied. "I know this forest better than anyone, and I won't let them come back. I will help." Seeing Maya's strong determination, Mr. Booty finally agreed. They came up with a plan. Maya would lead the ranger team, but she would not be on the front line. The goal was to gather evidence and trap the poachers in their own cabin. Meanwhile, Lykos waited at the cabin, unaware that Maya's decision would lead them to a final confrontation. The two of them, from different worlds, were now on the verge of a great battle for freedom and security. That afternoon, a great storm arrived. Heavy rain poured and a strong wind blew. This condition made Maya's and the ranger team's plan very difficult. However, they had no choice but to continue. In the middle of the dark and wet forest, Maya led the ranger team toward the poacher's cabin. She walked with full vigilance, while Lykos, who felt restless at the cabin, decided to follow Maya's scent. His instinct told him something bad was about to happen. When they arrived near the poacher's cabin, Maya signaled the team to wait. She crept closer alone to make sure. Outside, she saw Casman and his men celebrating something. They had caught something. Lykos. Maya froze. Her heart sank. A tremendous panic hit her. She peered closer and saw Lykos tied up in a small cage, his fur wet and dirty. Lykos was not struggling. He was just staring blankly ahead. He had given up. Maya couldn't hold back. She had to save Lykos. She left the ranger team and ran toward the cabin. "Lykos!" she screamed. The poachers were shocked. Casman smirked. "So, you're the girl protecting this wolf. I knew something was strange. Looks like you came alone." Maya ignored him and tried to open the cage, but Casman and his men quickly caught her. They tied her up and made her sit next to Lykos's cage. "Look, forest girl," Casman said. "I'm going to sell this wolf and get a lot of money. You can't stop me." In the middle of that despair, Maya saw something that broke her heart. Not because of their defeat, but because of a betrayal. She saw one of the park rangers who was supposed to be part of her rescue team standing there, smiling cynically. He was an informant who had been working with the poachers, and he was the one who had leaked Lykos's location to them. A pain deeper than the defeat itself enveloped Maya. Trust, which had been her foundation, had now been betrayed. Lykos, who saw Maya tied up and helpless, suddenly growled. It was not a growl of fear, but a growl of anger. His empty eyes were now filled with the fire of hatred. He would not let Maya get hurt. He would not let this betrayal happen. In that moment, something extraordinary happened. The wolf, who had been branded as a bringer of bad luck, unleashed a power that had been dormant inside him. Lykos struggled with all his might, not caring about the wounds it might cause. He rammed his body into the cage, again and again, with amazing strength. The wires of the cage rattled, and the lock that held it began to loosen. The poachers, including Casman, laughed cynically, underestimating his efforts. "Stupid wolf," one of them jeered. "The more you struggle, the more you hurt yourself." But they were wrong. Lykos was no longer struggling blindly. He was using his intelligence. He saw a small gap at the bottom of the cage. With his teeth and claws, he began to gnaw and pry at the wire that was already weak from his earlier ramming. Maya, who was tied up beside him, watched Lykos's struggle. Her eyes welled up with tears. Not from sadness, but from pride. She knew Lykos would not give up. Suddenly, a loud, cracking sound was heard. The lock of the cage broke, and Lykos managed to get out. The poachers were shocked. They quickly pulled out their weapons, but Lykos was too fast. He didn't attack. He dodged, running around them, creating chaos. With an agile move, he pounced toward the man who had tied Maya, and with one quick motion, he gnawed at the rope that bound Maya's wrists, setting her free. Maya, now free, stood up. She had no weapon, but she had her wits. She saw the ranger team still hiding. She had to give them a signal. Bravely, she ran towards the poacher's campfire and kicked a flaming log toward a pile of dry leaves. The fire spread quickly, and thick smoke billowed up. This was the signal. Lykos ran to Maya and waited for her. "Let's go, Lykos!" Maya screamed. "We have to leave!" They ran together, away from the chaos they had created. The poachers panicked, trying to extinguish the fire and chase them at the same time. However, the sound of sirens from the approaching ranger team made them give up. Casman and his men realized that their hunt was over. In the middle of that confusion, Maya and Lykos managed to escape. They hid behind some bushes, watching from a distance as the ranger team captured the poachers. Although they had succeeded, Maya knew this wasn't the end. She had to make sure the poachers would never come back. And she had an idea. The next day, Maya returned to the park ranger's office. This time she brought Lykos with her. The wolf walked calmly beside Maya, as if he were a pet dog. Mr. Booty and his team were shocked to see the sight. "Maya, what are you doing? This is dangerous!" exclaimed Mr. Booty. "He's not a threat, Mr. Booty," Maya replied, stroking Lykos's head. "He is a witness. He is a victim." Maya gave her testimony in front of the forest police and Mr. Booty. She told them everything in detail, from the traps the poachers made to the betrayal that had occurred. She explained how Lykos, who was considered a monster, was actually an intelligent and loyal creature. Lykos, with his calm presence, became living proof of Maya's story. He let Mr. Booty examine the wound on his paw, the scar from the poacher's trap. Mr. Booty looked at Lykos with respect. He realized that the superstition and fear that had spread in the village were lies, created by the poachers to justify their actions. The ranger team immediately conducted an investigation. With the information Maya had provided, they found other evidence at the poacher's cabin, including fur and body parts of rare animals that had been hunted. The investigation also led to the traitor within the ranger team. The man, who had leaked the information to Casman, was arrested. He confessed that he had been helping the poachers for a long time, trading information for money. The confession cleared Maya's and Lykos's names, proving that they were victims, not criminals. However, this revelation had another consequence. The news about the albino wolf and the girl who protected him began to spread. The media from the city came, wanting to cover the story. Maya became the center of attention, something she had avoided her whole life. She knew her peaceful life in the forest would never be the same again. But she had no regrets. She had done the right thing. She had protected Lykos, and in doing so, she had also protected herself. Their story went viral. A photograph of Maya stroking Lykos's head, who was now called the Forest Guardian, appeared in newspapers and on social media. Lykos, who was once branded as a bringer of bad luck, was now revered as a symbol of hope and bravery. The villagers who once feared the wolf now came to the park ranger's office, apologizing for their fear. They even started a fundraising campaign to help Maya and support forest conservation. However, this attention brought an inevitable consequence. Experts from a wildlife conservation center came to meet Maya. They explained to her that Lykos, as a wild wolf, could not continue to live with humans. He needed to return to the wild, join his pack, and find a mate. They said Lykos had to be rehabilitated and released back into a safe habitat, far away from humans. Maya's heart shattered. She knew they were right. Lykos couldn't stay with her forever. He was a wolf, and his home was the forest, not Maya's small cabin. Lykos also felt the restlessness. He saw that Maya was often sad, and he knew something big was about to happen. Lykos was Maya's guardian, and he didn't want to see her sad. Maya took Lykos back to the forest, to the place where they had first met. She sat down beside him, stroking his soft white fur. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Lykos," she whispered, "you have to go. You are a wolf. The forest is your home. You have to find your own kind." Lykos looked into Maya's eyes. He felt a deep sadness. He licked the tears from Maya's cheek, as if to say, "I know." But he didn't move. He didn't want to leave the only person who had ever seen him for who he truly was. Lykos and Maya were at a crossroads. They had saved each other, but now they had to make the most difficult choice: to part ways for each other's sake. The next few days, Maya spent every moment with Lykos. She took him to their favorite spots: the meadow with wildflowers, the hidden waterfall, and the hill overlooking the sunrise. It was a farewell, but also a celebration of the bond they had built. Maya told him about her past, about the wounds that had made her an isolated person, and about how Lykos had helped her heal. Lykos listened quietly, his eyes fixed on her, as if he understood every word. The day finally came. The conservation team arrived to take Lykos to a wildlife sanctuary, where he would be rehabilitated before being released into a new, safe habitat. Maya walked Lykos to the conservation van. Her heart felt heavy, as if a stone were lodged in her chest. She hugged Lykos for the last time, kissing the wolf's head. "I will miss you, Lykos," she whispered, her voice trembling. "But I know you'll be fine. Be yourself. Be Lykos, the forest guardian." Lykos looked into Maya's eyes. Then he gently touched her hand, a meaningful gesture of farewell. He stepped into the van without looking back. Lykos knew that looking back would only make everything harder. Maya stood there, watching the van drive away until it disappeared from sight. Tears streamed down her face, but this time they were not tears of sadness, but tears of acceptance. Back at her cabin, Maya felt a tremendous emptiness. The forest that once felt so comfortable now felt lonely. She tried to go back to her routine, but everything felt different. However, she was not alone. She saw Lykos's paw prints in every corner of the cabin. She smelled his scent on her blanket. The memories were not painful. Instead, they gave her strength. Maya realized that even though Lykos was no longer physically by her side, he would always be in her heart. Maya was now a guardian, not just of the forest, but also of their precious memories. A few months passed since the farewell. Maya continued to live her life in the forest, but with significant changes. She was no longer isolated. She accepted visits from Mr. Budi and the conservation team, who gave her updates on Lykos. Lykos successfully passed his rehabilitation period. He learned to interact with other wolves again and showed amazing signs of adaptation. The story of Lykos and Maya inspired many people. The villagers, who were once afraid of the wolf, now started a program to protect wild animals. They worked together with Maya, learning from her how to interact with nature in harmony. Maya, who was once quiet and reclusive, was now a teacher. She taught the children in the village about the importance of protecting nature and the beauty of wildlife. On the other hand, Lykos was successfully released into his new habitat in a vast nature reserve. At first he was hesitant. This new forest felt strange, and he still missed Maya. But his wolf instincts guided him. He met other wolves, and because of his intelligence and courage, he was accepted. Lykos found his new pack. Although he no longer lived with humans, he didn't forget them. One day, the conservation team sent Maya a photo. It was a photo of Lykos, who now looked healthier and stronger. The most touching part was a photo of Lykos with a female wolf. In the photo, they looked together. Lykos had found his mate. Maya's heart was filled with happiness. She knew Lykos had found his own happiness. He was no longer alone. Maya realized that she had also changed. The heart that was once closed due to her past trauma was now open. She no longer felt afraid or lonely. Lykos had not only given her a purpose, but also the courage to open up to other people. The forest was still her home, but now she had a bigger family. The community she built, and Lykos's memories that would always be with her. Maya had learned to live in harmony with humans, something that had once seemed impossible. She found peace in teaching others about the beauty of nature, and she saw Lykos in every step they took. One afternoon, Maya received an email from the conservation team. They had sent her a short video. In the video, Lykos was seen hunting with his mate. He was no longer lonely or scared. Lykos looked strong, healthy, and happy. The video showed Lykos leading his mate to a specific area. Lykos stopped in front of a large tree, where he sniffed the ground. The conservation team suspected he was looking for something. Maya zoomed in on the video. She saw Lykos digging in the earth with his paws, and underneath he found a small object. It was a dried rose. The same rose Maya had once left in front of the cave where they first met. Lykos gently sniffed the rose, then gave it to his mate. The female wolf took it carefully, as if she understood the meaning of the object. Tears rolled down Maya's cheeks, but this time they were tears of pure happiness. Lykos had not forgotten her. He had not forgotten the kindness that Maya had given him. Even though they were in different places, the bond between them remained intact. Lykos had found his happiness, but he never forgot the root of that happiness. The video made Maya realize something profound. True happiness doesn't always mean having something by your side. True happiness is when you know the person you love has found their own happiness, even if you are no longer a part of their life physically. Lykos had taught Maya the most important lesson. True love is about letting go. Maya saved the video, an eternal reminder of their bond. Sometime later, while on her usual morning patrol, Maya found something in front of her cabin door. It was a very young wolf pup, with grey fur, curled up shivering. The pup had intelligent and alert eyes, but showed no fear. Around its neck, a carefully twisted cord of tree roots was tied, like a necklace. Maya's heart pounded. She knew this was no coincidence. It was a gift. Maya looked around, and from behind the bushes she saw the silhouettes of Lykos and his mate. They stood there, watching from a distance. Lykos did not approach. He just looked at Maya and seemed to nod, a wordless signal. Then, he turned and disappeared into the forest with his mate. Maya couldn't hold back the tears. Lykos had returned, not to stay, but to give her one last farewell gift. He had entrusted his pup to Maya. The wolf pup, which did not have the albino defect, was a symbol of Lykos's courage and acceptance. Lykos had not only found happiness, but also ensured that his legacy would continue, protected by the person he trusted the most. Maya gently took the wolf pup into her arms. The pup nudged its nose against Maya's cheek, a familiar gesture. This was not a farewell, but a new beginning. Lykos and Maya had parted ways, but they had not truly left each other. They had given each other a gift, a recognition, a hope, and a promise that their bond would be eternal. Maya decided to name the wolf pup Lyra, which means lyre or star in Latin, as a reminder of the beauty and melody of life that Lykos had given her. Lyra grew quickly, but unlike her father, she didn't have the albino defect, but she had Lykos's eyes that were filled with wisdom and warmth. Every day, Lyra reminded Maya of her adventures with Lykos. Lyra was very intelligent. She learned quickly and had a strong bond with Maya. She accompanied her on her patrols, played on the riverbank, and rested under the large trees. Lyra's presence brought Maya's cabin back to life. Lyra also became a bridge between Maya and Lykos. Through Lyra, Maya could feel Lykos's presence, who was always watching over her from afar. On the other hand, Lykos and his mate continued to live in the nature reserve. Lykos had become a strong alpha male, leading his pack with wisdom. He often returned to the border of the old forest, just to observe from a distance. He never came closer. He just wanted to make sure that Maya and his child were doing well. One night, as the full moon shone brightly, Lyra sat on the porch with Maya. Lyra lifted her head and howled. It was a different howl from the usual wolf's howl. The howl was filled with warmth and gratitude, the same howl that Lykos often let out. Maya knew that the howl was Lykos's howl. a howl that celebrated the freedom and life they had found. The howl was no longer a lonely one, but a melody filled with peace and happiness. Maya hugged Lyra tightly, feeling the warmth of her fur against her cheek. That night, for the first time in a long time, Maya felt truly whole. She had found peace, not in hiding, but in the courage to open herself up and accept. Years passed. The forest that was once threatened was now a protected nature reserve. Maya's cabin became an education center, a place where children and adults learned about the importance of harmony between humans and nature. Lyra, now a majestic adult wolf, became an honorary guardian, helping Maya show every visitor that wolves were not monsters, but noble creatures worthy of protection. One bright afternoon, as the sun set and cast a golden light, Maya sat on her cabin porch. Beside her, Lyra lay, her head resting on Maya's lap. Maya stroked Lyra's fur, closed her eyes, and let the memories flood her mind. She remembered Lykos, the wolf who was once an outcast, who saved her soul from loneliness. She remembered the battles they faced, the painful farewell, and the invaluable gift Lykos had left her. Suddenly, Lyra raised her head. She stood up and howled. It was not a happy howl like she often made, but a howl filled with nostalgia and longing. Maya opened her eyes and saw a sight she had never expected. On a hill, the silhouette of a pure white wolf stood gracefully, looking toward them. Maya's heart pounded. It was Lykos. He had returned, not to stay, but to see her. Beside Lykos, his mate and a few other wolf pups stood. One of the pups, the smallest one, had the same pure white fur as Lykos. He was Lykos's grandson. Maya stood up, crying, tears streaming down her face. She didn't run towards Lykos. She just stood there, watching from a distance. Lykos didn't step forward. He just stared at Maya. Their gazes met, crossing the distance, and in that silence, they spoke. Lykos said thank you, and Maya replied, "Me too." After a moment, Lykos turned around. He led his family, and they disappeared into the forest as night fell. Maya remained standing there, watching the scene. Lyra came and nuzzled her head against Maya's leg, as if to say, "See, he's doing fine." Maya smiled. She had found her ending. An ending that didn't start with forever, but with together. Their story taught that true love transcends separation, that family can be found in the most unexpected places, and that even the most outcast of creatures can become the most valuable of guardians.